other ways. But we wanted to put on gigs in Kingston because we want bands in our hometown. And like trek into London, it doesn't quite have the same like emotional involvement as in your hometown with all your crew and your friends. So that was a driving force there. So some of, at the time, the sort of touring DIY punk bands like maybe Cap Down and Spy vs Spy and those kind of shows would sell out, 250 people selling out the biggest venue we had at the time. And that was like a real part of something. You felt you were a part of something when you were there with these touring bands. So we always had the idea of putting on club nights and putting on shows. And then as and when, and we'll probably talk about the mechanics of this, but as and when we took over Banquet, what we tried to do is we were selling records, and outside of our day job we were putting on gigs and putting on club nights. So we tried to put them all under the same umbrella.
Yeah, that makes tons of sense.
Yeah, and because the person who goes to gigs is the person who buys records. So why not get him involved and try and make it all part of the same thing. So in actual, the driving force was like, hey, this is music. We should all be we should all be trying to celebrate this and involve each other. But if we were trying to express it to a bank manager, we'd be talking about like diversifying within music and having a 360-degree approach to music consumerism. But it's not that. It's just a vibe. It's just like, you as a music fan, you should
completely. Like, and I definitely think it's an ethic and an idea that labels at a point took on in the wrong way with their attempts at 360 deals, because they tried to do a similar thing but made it a financial thing of, right, shit, if people are going to stop buying stuff, we now need to sign artists and get every bit of, or get a cut of everything that they do, which isn't the point. Whereas the beauty of the reverse side of it, of your kind of 360 deal, is rather than getting a cut of everything, it's putting everything in one bowl. So you're going, right, everything feeds itself and feeds each other. So the club nights and gigs are feeding the store, and the store is promoting, like, get this band, and and seeing it all through.
And there was sometimes like back in the day where I'd be putting on gigs and I would lose like 200, 300 quid, and I didn't know how I would eat for the next few days. But as it is now, we can be a bit more risky, and sometimes we can lose a big amount of money, considerably more than that, and no one's going bust, because there's different revenue streams, and we can take more risk and do more things. And sometimes we do things which we know are going to lose money, but we think are just a good thing worth doing for like the local town.
Perfect. So let's rewind a bit. How did you go from nervously walking into to Beggar's Banquet for the first time to working there to then taking over?
So I went to university at Loughborough, which was a pretty poor area for music. The best things about Loughborough was that it was near other places. The actual town itself was bad. So because there wasn't much of a music scene, I started an indie night there, and that was kind of how I got involved in DJing and promoting. And then when we came back to Kingston through the holidays, I was helping the guys at the shop who were doing their thing.
I think indie nights are such a good gateway and starting point, because so many, not to hate on anyone, because I've done it as well myself, but you don't need an awful lot of skill to DJ at an indie night. You just need some good tunes.
Absolutely.
And it's not that kind of, right, you need this pressure of you need to be able to mix and do this and that. It's like, them kids just want to hear the right songs, and that's that.
I think in that context, you're a selector rather than a DJ. It's just about picking the right tunes. But the actual skill of pressing play, my mum could do that. But she never has yet. I'll try and persuade her.
Let's move that up the priority list.
So where was it? So I left university, didn't really know what to do. Started working at Beggars on a part-time basis because it was quite fun, but it wasn't a real job. Left there, got a real job which earned a bit of money but was a bit boring. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the guy who was doing the sort of punk and indie buying at the shop, he left to take on 100 Reasons management full-time, which was it was 12, 13 years ago now. And they were a band who...
When they had supported every metal band or hardcore band that came over for years, and then were doing their own huge shows.
And at that time, they really were groundbreaking. You wouldn't flick through Kerrang and find any UK rock bands apart from maybe Muse. That was it was the new beginning of an alternative rock band.
They're the band I've seen the most without paying to go and see, if that makes sense. And again, I don't mean that as an insult at all. It was an easy bonus that if I was going to see the Mars Volta or or whoever was over, I'd get to see Under Reasons too, and that'd be a genuine, like, we'd get there early for that. I don't mean that as any insult, but they were making waves when everything else that you were into of that genre was American.
Yeah, and they really did open the way for a lot of other bands, whether or not they realise it.
Yeah.
So the guy was left and was like, "Do you want this job?" And I was like, "I don't really know. I'm quite happy at the moment. I'm getting a bit of money and I'm trying to save to buy a house." And he was like, but then we kind of worked out that if I didn't do that job, didn't know who was going to do that job, and everything about the local music scene and the gigs and all this stuff, which was my only social life, that would fall apart.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like not pressured into it, but I knew that if
I
we
love
didn't...
that. It's like, do you want this job? I mean, you can, but if you don't, you've got nowhere to go out anymore and nothing to do. So it's up to you. You have the job or not. But
it kind of felt
your social life is fucked if you don't take this job.
Yeah, maybe. But it was more the actual idea that if we want these gigs to continue and like something which we thought was like quite significant at the time. So I took this job on and like didn't really know how long it would last, a couple of years or whatever. But I found it quite fun and quite interesting.
Yeah.
After not very long, the parent company Beggars Banquet, the parent company Beggars Group, which owned the retail arm of what they did, decided to close the retail arm. So they sold it to the then boss for very cheap, a nothing amount, and we took on. He took on the record shop as was, and it was 2 years after that it was running out of money and we were like a week from going bust. Like we had no stock to sell, so we couldn't get money in, and then we couldn't pay the bills because we weren't getting any sales. And it was a bleak time. I hadn't been paid for like 8 months and I was getting by off like my DJ money.
Yeah.
And, that was fine in a way because I thought the bigger picture was important. But as we were going bust, we worked out a way to buy it off the then boss, which was, and that's 10.5 years ago, and we bought it for like a very small amount but took on very significant debts.
Yeah, of course.
And then it became the Banquet that we know today. So that was 10.5 years ago. And since it became Banquet, all the stuff, like I was saying earlier, all the stuff that we did outside of the shop became a part of the shop.
That's perfect. You see, I was going to say, how did you pull yourself out of that situation then? Because you're taking on... a live grenade there, effectively. If it's very much you're out of stock and this, but I guess one of those methods would be to pull in all of the resources and make it one thing.
And we did have a cash injection when we borrowed some money because we knew that having worked in the business and doing the accounts at that time for 2 years, I could see that if we got that money, we could do this and we could do this.
Speculate to accumulate.
Yeah. Well, and it worked to a point, but it wasn't as immediate as we hoped, and it was a lot of work and a lot of people doing a lot of work for no money and friends getting involved and people who were doing commercial work for hundreds of pounds for like graphic design stuff, helping us out as mates and stuff, and we really did pull on a lot of favours.
That's wicked.
And then we took it over, and it's been the beginning of something different from that point.
Yeah, it seems to have just keep growing and growing. Let's talk quickly about how the digital side has grown. Again, I'm jumping ahead here because I want to get back to the in-stores and all the different people you've had. But that's kind of, I think we should make people wait a bit for that because that's the beauty there. But let's talk about the digital side of it and how that's changed, because a lot of independent record stores have fallen under the wave of digital record sales. Banquet seems to be the one have gone, no, we're going to supplement everything with that, and that's going to, as I think it has now, become at least equal a part of our business and size of our business to be selling records online. And again, it's something that is quite simple and straightforward, but I mean HMV, I believe, have dropped their digital a web store now
right now
and things like that. So there's a fair few people. So all you've got really is Amazon, who a lot of people are against because of their tax evasion and things like that. A lot of people are for because of the ease and the price and everything else. But you've put yourself up there as one of the key options and outlets for buying online.
I think from day one we've always tried to treat our customers as music fans, and we as music fans should know how they are. So we were never trying to pretend that we didn't buy MP3s or whatever. So we don't want digital to be the enemy. And as websites were growing, there was a few shops who were kind of trying to be like, the internet's the enemy, but we were never that. And I think the shops that are left that are doing well are also those ones who sort of embraced the internet as a wide term.
In many ways, it took an ethos and an ethic and everything that was very much loved in Kingston. It took that global, I guess, in many ways. It meant it was now accessible. You didn't have to come all the way to Kingston to thumb through your records.
Yeah,
you could do it from.
And we've always tried to make the website.
Yeah,
And we've always tried to make the website an online version of the shop.
Yeah.
So the idea is when you go straight into the shop, you see the front racks of some of the big stuff, and you can go and have a look at some of the other things, and then you can flick through. And so that's the vibe of the shop. And so there's personal recommendations there as well, and maybe a photo of that band played the shop.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing. We want it to be sort of warts and all in a way. Yeah. We're not trying to compete with Amazon. We're trying to be an online version of ourselves. So come in and there'll be a personal opinion there, but it won't be a snobby one. It'll try to be sort of, hey, if you like this, you like this. And the same way that if we see a customer come in who likes a particular kind of band, we can point them the way of this. But it's not like an algorithm. It's not like an Amazon-esque customers who bought this will buy this. It's a little bit more, hey, this has the same feel of this. And so I think sometimes people get too involved in analysis and a kind of an automated approach where you need to keep that human aspect to the shop, to the online stuff, to the gigs, and be real people running a real record shop, because otherwise you're trying to compete with Amazon, which isn't what we do.
I mean, it's exactly how people like POS and Sage Francis and so many others have appealed to so many punk kids and metal kids, because in an algorithm they wouldn't at all, because they're hip hop, but in the reality, in the feel of them, in the DIY nature, and same with me and Dan over the years, like our crowd has always been hugely varied in who they are, yet you probably wouldn't put an algorithm to put any of these people in the same room together, yet they're all there enjoying it, because there's some untangible element there that ties it all together.
I utterly believe that punk is a lifestyle rather than a music type. So if you're like punk minded, DIY minded, you can have the same kind of vibe with like a punk kid putting on a band as a grime artist in a different venue, as almost like as artists, like visual artists in a different environment, and like skateboarding shops, how they deal with like an independent market in their world against like the corporates of Nike SB or something. And there's so many parallels all the way.
I mean, I'd say one of the most punk rock things to come out in recent years have been Odd Future. And again, there's love and hate. There's been stuff I've liked and stuff I've not liked, but on the punk ethic and idea, they're as punk as you can possibly get, yet they probably haven't got a single guitar on, or a lot of them wouldn't have a single guitar or instrument on any of the records. But
and it's something that I've witnessed right up and close personally is JME, who had an album out 2 months ago, and like he's self-managed, and he runs his stuff himself. I don't know if self-managed is the right word. And he was like, shall I do he put on Twitter, shall I do a signing in Kingston, or is it a bit leave it? And people replied to him saying, yeah, you should come down. So he did a signing in the shop, which was quite sick, good idea. And then we had this PA sitting in the shop, as we do for installs, and we were like, hey, do you want to play some songs? And he's like, yeah, why not? And then and that was like a real sort of punk-minded thing, like where he just did it, got on with it. And then we had like the best time in a kind of, and Skepta came down and said hello, and was vocals on a track, and that was just a real kind of spirit of DIY. And so this is cross music, but it's the mindset behind it all, which I'm sure you can appreciate.
Completely. So let's get into
this piece of fiction is the intro to Distraction Masters. This piece of fiction